everybody, this is Felicia and welcome back. I am part 2. This is going to be part 2 of Scrapbooking Essentials, and it involves paper. My goodness, we can accumulate a lot of paper as a scrapbooker. But what you want to remember is you want to have the essentials papers. Your regular 12 by 12s, plain cardstock paper will always get you through a scrapbooking project. And then as you go on, you can add on the different types of papers, such as vellum, such as other 100-pound cardstock, 120-pound cardstock, glitter paper, a bunch of other little papers, I would say acetate, printed vellum you could print on. I think I said vellum already. Specialty papers with texture, watercolor paper. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. But what we want to remember is that when we get that paper, we need to use that paper. Now, I'm super guilty, super guilty of accumulating a bunch of paper. As a matter of fact, I have a paper pad here that I want to show you. That is my ultimate favorite paper pad for 2 reasons. One, I have not ever seen anyone like any other paper pad like this. And if you have this paper pad, oh my gosh, then you know how old this paper pad is. And then 2, my daughter gave it to me. It was so funny because when I first started scrapbooking, everybody was like, oh, this is cute, I like your stuff, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have a whole lot of papers. But then I started accumulating papers around about 2005. That's when I started accumulating more and more papers as time went by, because I used what was in my scrapbooking kit at the time. And because it took me hours and hours and hours just to do one page, I didn't scrapbook a whole lot. So I didn't start scrapbooking until 2005. I went to Michael's and I saw scrapbooking kits beyond belief. They would come in these little plastic things, and I'm going to show you exactly what one of those looked like, because I still have one of those. Actually, I have a few of those to this very day. So I'm going to show you what that looked like. So this is the smaller kit. These kits, if you can see that, these kits came in these little packages here, and they were pretty expensive. It was expensive. It was $8 for one of these. But it contained a lot of papers, a lot of die cuts, some stickers, of course, and things like that, different shapes and stuff, and some borders and frames, actually. So I have 2 of those. I love this one because it's a groovy, this one right here. Let's see if you can see that right there. And then this is the kit itself. So yeah, and then they also had the big 12 by 12 ones, which of course I got my hands on them. Now, little did I know, and here's one more. Little did I know that these papers and things were going to eventually go out of style, and they went out of style relatively quickly. Creating keepsakes came on the scene. Well, they were on the scene already. I used to subscribe to the magazine and everything like that and all that other good stuff. So I'm just giving you a lot of historical stuff on scrapbooking, because scrapbooking actually started back in the early 1600s. So actually a little bit earlier than that. I forgot. I'll get the date. According to my daughter, she's the historian, so she told me some of this stuff. So, and I actually looked it up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But I'm giving you a little bit of history on how I got started, and you can tell how long I've been scrapbooking just by that history that you've seen right there. So it's been papers and papers and papers I've collected over the years. I've kept a few archival things just to keep a few to show how far I've come along in scrapbooking. And who knew back in 2000, or I should say back in 1998 and even 2005, 6, 7, and 9, that I would be doing any videos for YouTube scrapbooking. Who knew that was going to happen? Not me, that's for sure. So I got on here to also tell you about the different papers. So what I'm going to be showing you here in this video is the different kinds of papers that you can use during your scrapbooking, all the way to pattern paper, vellum paper, acetate, and all that other good specialty paper. So you're going to be looking, well, I'm going to be showing you some of the stuff here in the video and some of the stuff. Now, the essentials for scrapbooking, you guys, it's just your basic 12 by 12 cardstock, because you can cut that 12 by 12 cardstock into an 8.5 by 11, a 6 by 8, an 8 by 8, or a 9 by 12. So you can do whatever you want, even go down as far as a 6 by 6 and a 3 by 4. So you can do whatever you want with your basic cardstock paper. And if you have black and white, and I suggested black and white to start out with, that is the best thing to do. There are also other colors. Lord knows I have a bunch of cardstock in my stash, and if you've been scrapbooking for as long as I have, you tend to collect quite a bit, but I do keep it organized. I have donated so much pattern paper that it's ridiculous. It's just, and then I still end up with a ton of pattern paper. Now, I haven't really accumulated more pattern paper. I haven't gone out and bought any. But what I did do is I went out and bought paper pads. Just a few. So one of my favorite paper pads is this one. No one has this one that I've seen so far. And if you can take a look at that, you can see these. And it says Exotic East. It is by Imagine This. Now, can you imagine having a paper pad with paper in it that looks like this? I mean, look at this. Look at all these papers. Oops. And then it also came with a couple sheets of stickers, which was funny because I'm like, wow. I mean, it came with 2 sets of alphabets in 2 different styles. This is one of them right here. And then the other ones are still attached in the book, but it came with that. And it came with the stickers on the part here with different things of saying of family stuff and people and things like that. Now, this was cool. I really, really like this. This was given to me by my daughter. She gave it to me as a present, as well as the stamp set that I still have as well. So I have a sentimental heart, and I know a lot of people say, well, you know, that's kind of hoarding. But call it what you want, call it what it is. But I'm gonna tell you right now, those things like this are archival for me, because it's, if you know anything about history, and of course all of you know that I have a BA in anthropology, biological archaeology. So yeah, so you can kind of see they kind of intermix with each other there, although the bio part is about more of human remains, whereas the archaeology part is more about artifacts. So if you didn't know the difference, that is the difference between the two. So my job is, as a bioarchaeologist, is to be on site with the archaeologists, just in case they run into human remains, because they are not trained to find or to see what a human bone looks like, because it could look like a pebble, especially the bones in your hand here and the bones in your feet. They can look like a pebble. They could look like anything. So, and I'm going off on a tangent just to say that, you know, archival things, you know, that's what archaeologists do. They archive, they find things, they archive, they dig them up, and they keep them. And I'm not making it an excuse, but I'm keeping my paper pad. I mean, it might be here for another 10, 20, 15 years. Who knows? But, yes, I'm going to keep it. So that was just a little tangent. So we're going to get on with the different papers that are essential or that you can add on into your scrapbooking stash. All right, guys, let's go. Hello, everybody. This is Felicia here, and I am going to teach you a little bit about scrapbooking paper. And boy, and there's a lot of them out there, you guys. So welcome to Scrapbooking Essentials Part 2. And I'm going to be showing you the different papers here that are available, that are on the market. Not all papers are created equal, and we are going to get started here, and I'm going to give you the basics here of what I have, and then we'll move on to this nice little pile I have over here to the side of some other papers here. So we're going to begin with our regular basic papers. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you why. So we have two basic papers here, and our basic papers are cardstock. Now this is your basic cardstock paper here. This is white and black, and this cardstock, particular cardstock, is the American Crafts cardstock, and these come in a variety, I do mean variety, of different colors, but I'm just, for simplicity here, I'm just gonna do the black and white one. So, and if you notice, if you look closely, there is a texture on this paper, and that's how you can tell. American Crafts has their own distinct texture on their paper, and yes, if you do want to write on this paper, it does take a little bit of practice, but it's really good. So this is your basic scrapbooking paper, black and white. Now, I would suggest that you have these two in your stash at all times, because you always need a white piece of cardstock, and you always will need a black piece of cardstock. For some reason, I'm finding that out as time goes by. I go through black and white cardstock quicker than any other colors that I have in my stash. So black and white is your basic cardstock. Now, and this will hold your layout. This holds a lot. This is 65 pound, by the way. So if you're wondering, if you wanted to know that, this is 65 pounds. So we got that. Now, another 65 pounder is pattern paper. This is just one of millions, I say, of pattern papers that are out there. This particular pattern paper here is from the Ali Edwards scrapbooking kit. And I just pulled this one out because it was pretty much the closest one that I could pull. I got a lot of pattern paper on stock. A lot of people don't keep the pattern paper in their stash, but I do, and a lot of people who do keep pattern paper in their stash only keep small amounts. Well, unfortunately, I am one of those people that have a large amount, because once again, I have been scrapbooking for a long time. I have de-stashed my stash over the 23 years that I've been scrapbooking about maybe 7 times, and for some reason I still end up with a lot of paper, and I've given away 12-inch stacks of pattern paper. And trust me, pattern paper can be as mute as you want it to be, like this one is, or it can be as dull. You know, or I wouldn't say dull, I'll say this is bright. I'll just put it that way. Okay, so now that we're on the other kick here, I am going to give you 3 more basic card stocks here before we move on to all the other goodies here. So we have 2 papers here, and they're both textured cardstock. This one is by Basil, and you can tell by the texture this is a Basil paper, and I could always tell usually because I've been scrapbooking for so long that I know which ones is which. But this has a texture in it as well, as you can see, and this paper is by Basil. And if you're not sure, 9 times out of 10 it usually has the sticker on the back to tell you who it is, and if you don't buy Basil, buy the bulk. So if you ever do this, and you can find this paper, this basic pattern cardstock paper at Joann's and Michael's as well, and you can definitely find American Crafts there too. So, but it doesn't come in a bulk at American Crafts, but it does come in a bulk if you order online. Now, our next cardstock is a more textured one. Now, I've had this in my stash for a while, but this is a super textured one, and you can make and cut embellishments out of this, or you can just use it like it is, as it is. But this is more of a 50-pound weight cardstock. This is very, very thin, so I usually use papers like this in more of a strip form, or just a part of a scrapbook page that I'm dividing up or something like that. So you just want to just figure out what you need the paper for. Okay, so now we have 2, let me slide this up, I think I'm a little too close, there we go. We have 2 basic papers here of cardstock, and they're different weights. And what I usually do with these is I make cards with these, and sometimes if I need to make my own embellishments, I will pull these both out, or one of these out. Now this one is an 80 pound cardstock, and this is Nina Solar White. Okay, and it's 80 pounds. And then this one is 120 pounds, and this is also Nina Solar White, and it is 120 pounds. This is very thick, and this is usually what I make my cards out of when I do make my cards. Either 100 pound to 120 pound weight. I do not make my cards so much out of the 80 pound anymore, but basically that's what I do. These are great for blending on if you're using the ink and things like that. They're awesome to blend. So you can use these to blend your ink and everything else on as you make your cards and things like that. And they run really well through the die cutting machines. Both of them do. Okay, so that is your basic papers. And so we're going to start on some of these specialty papers. Now, you don't have to have this in your stash, but this is something that you would definitely acquire over time when you're first starting out. And that is vellum. Oh my gosh, I love vellum. This is printable vellum, of course, and I have printed this on here. I printed this on here for a project, but I decided to keep it because I liked the way it looked, and I also liked what it says. So if any of you are familiar with The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman on it, then you would just know this is what was one of the songs, or the lyrics to one of the songs, so part of the lyrics. So this is printable vellum. This is vellum as well, and this is by American Crafts. It is in the plastic right now to protect it, but this is already pre-printed vellum, and I love working with this stuff. And I hoard it, and I know I shouldn't, but I do get a lot of these, and I do hoard them when I do it. I use it very little. So this is pretty much the printed vellum here. Now, the next one we have is acetate, and it is acid-free as well, and this is pre-printed. Now, there is clear acetate that you can use, and a lot of people use it for card making. And they use it to print on too, because you can print on it. I don't have any of the blank acetate right now, and I do. It's probably somewhere in my card stash, but this is what the pre-printed acetate looks like. And you can make embellishments out of this, or cut it in strips, or whatever the case may be, and how you want to use that. So that is some of these specialty papers here. So we're going to move on to more of a different kind of specialty paper, and this is watercolor paper. Yeah, a lot of people have been using this for their 12 by 12s. They come in these long sheets, and you can cut these in any size you want. You can also make 3 by 4 cards out of them. You can make cards out of this. This is very thick paper, and I love it. It's 140 pounds right here paper, and it's very durable and very thick. So this is what a watercolor paper pad comes like. And you know, if you want the really good stuff, then yes, you pay for it, because this is pretty heavy. So okay, now our next paper is going to be pretty cool. I love this. I've worked with this many times now so far, and it is jelly paper. Now, jelly paper originally comes just plain like this, okay? Now, I have some examples of some of the jelly paper that I have done, and I will show you what that looks like. But jelly paper usually comes plain, and it's very thin, and you use your jelly plates to make all kinds of designs. And if you're really good, oh my gosh, I've seen some really good techniques that was used doing this, using jelly paper. So jelly paper is pretty good. And then I'm going to show you some jelly paper that I have done with some designs on it. Now, this is some of my jelly paper that I have done some pre-printed designs on. Now, and I do this to keep it in my stash, and I've done them in groups, you know, in large groups of different types. So I've done some jelly paper work here, and these are some of my pre-printeds. This is what I've done already, some of the work. And I know this is some of the stuff that I have done. This is like the specialty jelly paper. I have done things like this. So these are the jelly papers that I've done. Now there are some jelly papers where I have actually used my stamps on as well. And I will show you an example of that, which is this right here. I've used some stamps on here, and I've also used this jelly paper with the stamps on it. So once it dries and you do your technique, then you take your stamp and use your Stays On ink or your VersaFine ink. Either one of those two will work, and you just stamp directly on top of your jelly paper once it's done. So that's another specialty and another thing there. And I save these because I always use these in my projects. I have projects that I do with that. So here's an example of the jelly paper, the use of jelly paper. Okay. These are some of the jelly paper that I've done here. I've taken pieces and put them on here and used them as pattern paper. Here's more jelly paper here that I've taken and I've used it as pattern paper, and I love the texture of this. And then there's more that I've stamped on. Exactly. Now this is a project that I had did with Ali Edwards, and it was pieces of me. And I've done more. You can see some of the jelly paper where I've stamped on and things like that. So this is pretty, I love doing this. This was a technique that I've never done before, and I've never used jelly paper. And I love this one because this is almost the same color as this ice cream here that I had. So that is Pieces of Life, and that first prompt was Pieces of Me. So that's where that came from. Now, I also use tissue paper. A lot of people like, what? Yes, I use tissue paper in some of my scrapbooking and in some of my projects because it's already colored, and it makes a really good, especially if you get something that you want to layer it on top of, like, say, you know, like a page, and you can insert it. Now, I know people are going, well, how do you insert it into the books like you saw me there? You just glue it down. You cut it exactly to what it is, all the way in, and you leave a little extra on the edge so that you can come along and cut it along the edge, because you want to make sure it's flush up against that seam in your book. So I use that, and I have a lot of this. So now I have a little folder here with a bunch of other specialty papers in there, like glitter paper, this textured paper here, a lot of these little papers and things like this is textured here. These kinds of papers I would use and pick and choose on what I want to use on the layout. We have another acetate one, which is cool. I haven't used this yet. I've had it for a while, but I haven't used it yet, but I will be. But this one is pretty cool. Let me back up here. It got too much. But yeah, these are the specialty papers that I just put inside of this little folder here. Okay, so now we're going to go down to other papers that you can accumulate over time. Paper pads. This is one of my favorite, the Vicki Boutin one, because it's got all kinds of bright colors. So this is one of my favorite paper pads, and you can just tear these out and use these. And a lot of these paper pads are double-sided, so, and they do put more than one, like say these cameras here, so they put more than one normally. Like here's the second one of the paper in here, so you don't have to pick and choose too much. Okay. All right, and so we have some smaller paper pads here, and these paper pads are specialty kinds. This is a corrugated paper pads stacks, and this is corrugated paper, and there's different colors, of course, and I use these usually for card making, so which calls for specialty stuff that I do. I have not used this yet on a scrapbooking page, but you never know, maybe one of these days. And then another pad that I have here is a cork one, which is pre-printed cork. I do have another paper pad in here that is blank cork, but you can also use the blank sided as if you want. And I don't know if you are aware, but you can stamp on cork. You use your Stays On ink and it stamps very well. I've done that many times. Another paper pad by Vicki Boutin. This is just a smaller one with all the different colors and things in it. This is just a different size paper pad. A 6x8. For those of you who like to scrap in the smaller albums, this is already pre-cut to a 6x8 size. And then we have another paper pad here, and this one is pretty cool. I got this one on sale at Joann's, and so this is by Heidi Swap, and I really love this one. This one came with stickers, which I thought was pretty cool, and not only just any stickers, but vellum stickers, the see-through kind. Oh my gosh, and the regular kind. So, I mean, this is pretty cool to have. And it's always good to get a paper pad that's multifunctional, that has designs in it and stickers as well. And then my last was this burlap paper pad. This is non-sticky, so you have to actually put adhesive on here. But this I thought was cool, and I usually use this for projects that I have or cards or anything. But I have not put this on a layout. Oh, yeah, I take that back. I have, but not this particular burlap, but I have put it. They also have colored burlap and things like that. And the cool thing about burlap is you can pull out the ones, and you can fray your edges and make it look pretty cool. So, alrighty guys, that is all I have today. I am so glad you came by to basically hang out with me so for Scrapbooking Essentials Part 2. And so we're going to be moving on to Scrapbooking Essentials Part 3 here in a little bit. And that one is going to consist of your different alphas. Alrighty guys, take care and have a great and wonderful, wonderful scrappy week. Bye.